Okay, so we are now going to hear the presentation from the SS Revolution Mothership Voyage. So take it away, guys.
Okay, so this is our prototype. We've put this together. This is called Mothership because our actions will leave from that ship, and it's also the prototype of this sort of educational voyage. So on to the next slide. I will finish at the end also.
Okay.
Well, I'll continue then. Prototype, an educational ship that takes information from the shores of the United States to Africa. The focus is to empower the continent in leadership, creativity, technology, and international cultures. It will take back, the take back is to learn culture, communication, and networking globalization. This is a very nice little cruise ship.
Yeah, I like that.
Next slide, please.
All right, so the whole idea is that our ship will be leaving from the port of Miami, and then we are going to land in Lomé, which is the country's capital of Togo. And the ship will stay there for about 4 weeks. Training teams will go from the 5 different regions in Togo. There will be a 2-week training on the ship, and then 2 weeks set up at the micro communication centers within each of these regions. The delegates from America will train and help set up, but at the same time, they will also be learning from their counterparts in their region as they are living and learning as they are part of the culture. Next slide, please.
Okay, numerous factors within Togo make it an ideal destination for the SS Revolution mothership. As a whole, the educational system within Togo has struggled. Teacher shortages, lower educational value in rural areas, as well as high repetition and dropout rates, serve as an opportunity for the SS Revolution to provide a foundation to spurring change within the educational system of Togo. The political environment of Togo has not been without discord in recent years. The country's current president is Gnassingbé, and his assumption of the presidency was heavily scrutinized and laden with controversy. Though progress is being made in the country, it is important for the SS Revolution to be mindful of Togo's political environment so resistance to educational endeavors can be minimized. From an economic perspective, Togo is one of the world's poorest countries. Though it has seen dramatic economic growth since 2010, the country is consistently faced with international pressure to not only institute a credible parliamentary election process, but also to improve its human rights record. The illegal export of ivory make international tensions even greater. Though not without significant barriers, Togo is an ideal country for the SS Revolution to visit. Seeds for educational reform and improvement have already been planted through organizations such as the Bridge of Creativity. Isolating itself from political pressures or engagement, the Bridge of Creativity is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation focused on promoting creativity, research, and innovation in Africa and abroad. Educational competitions, instructional after-school programs, and intellectual contests are utilized to encourage education. In doing so, Bridge of Creativity strengthens the cultural infrastructure of Africa, promotes a positive identity among students, highlights educational creativity, encourages innovation, and develops partnerships among schools throughout the country. Following the guiding principles of the Bridges of Creativity organization, the SS Revolution hopes to also ignite education throughout the Togo communities. Next slide.
The total overview process of this mission is to collect a total team of 100 cross-generational staff, which will be individuals, young and old, from all walks of life, will leave from the port of Miami in the United States. On the way to Africa, the teams will be split in 5 and trained on leadership, creativity, technology, and international cultures. Once the ship ports in Lomé, Togo, the teams will be partnered with pre-selected teams from the different 5 regions of Togo. The team of at least 50 delegates from these 5 regions. They will come onto the ship and train for 2 weeks. Then the teams will set off the ship into the regions to set up a center in those different regions and the micro communication centers for another 2 weeks. In return, the teams will live, learn, and explore the regions. They will live with certain selected families and wake up in the morning, go to bed at night, eat their food, learn their culture, hear their music, and learn the customs during their 2-week stay as they set up these micro communication stations. In the end, there will be a celebration ceremony in the regions, and the teams will head back to the ship. The teams will head back to the United States and on their way share their experiences with the rest of the participants. Next slide.
So the mission sessions that are going to be happening, there's different sections, and they're aligned with the basic concepts that are being put forward by Drexel. So we have the leadership sessions on ship, where the crew members will be given instruction on how to be a better leader, information about democracy, finance and administration, peace and human rights, sensitivity, so to prepare them for the voyage and the mission that they're going to be doing. Creativity sessions on the ship, creative problem solving for individuals and groups in a variety of ways, probably some of the things that we do in this class. Receptive visual thinking for individuals and groups. And so think about things in a different manner with visual, emphasis on visual representation. Technology sessions on the ship. Team of technicians would establish micro communication center in villages or towns in Togo. So that kind of training would happen on the ship to prepare for that. And the basic configuration is micro communication center with 1 laptop, 1 cell phone, 1 people powered generator, 1 solar panel setup, small wind turbine, antenna, satellite dish, and running on battery units. So it can be something that's self-sufficient and obviously continues on beyond the stay. This MCC would like the village with the link the village with the word for further training communications for mutual development and cross-pollination. So the intercultural sessions that will be taught by the people that we have an agreement with or our partnership with, the information about the history of Togo, way of life of the people, cultures, customs, fashion, entertainment, to get a real idea of what life is like there. Next slide, please.
Our personnel will travel to Togo on a 72M modern cruise vessel. This, as you saw on slide 2, accommodates up to 150 volunteers and crew. It's a very large vessel. Our personnel includes both volunteers and crew members. As far as funding, our volunteers will pay their own travel expenses and their health insurance. Expenses for lodging in Togo and for training purposes will be funded by the World Emerging Future Fund, which is based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So things that might cover is food, lodging, training dollars, training materials, fuel for the boat, things such as furniture, chairs, desks, computers, all of that. However, our crew members will be paid. As far as lodging, our teams will be teamed up to be a guest at selected family homes in Togo. Our team will take care of publicity. Right now, we're thinking about obviously using some social media, maybe Twitter and Facebook, maybe have our own Facebook page and Twitter account. It seems to be pretty far reaching. And also maybe we can advertise in newspapers. Next slide.
Whoops, that's it.
Or this is the last slide.
Okay, any other
Any
comments
que-
from the team?
Well, I think this is, we could look at, the crew must be paid because the crew must be licensed. As we develop this program, we may have volunteer crew members that meet their basic seamanship papers or third, fourth mate. In this particular prototype, it would take about 14 to 20 days to go from Miami to Lomé. In the future, you could take the ship anywhere you wanted by crew, and then have the volunteers assembled before you went to the next foreign country. So if you left out of Miami, you could be, say, in Haiti in maybe 2 days.
Mhm.
Okay. So let me ask, let me start off with just a couple of comments, as I look at this. One question, did the team, as they were putting together the team that would be on the ship, because let me go to this slide here. I think you talked about, it'd be a total of 100 cross-generational staff. Does that cross-generational include students, that there would be students who would be part of this entourage that would be going into these different areas?
Yes.
Okay, and these students would be selected how?
Well, go ahead.
They would sign up. I mean, we have in our group people from all different walks of life. We have people in education, middle school, higher ed, high school, and then we have people in the business world, people in the administrative offices of college. So I think we were thinking, drawing from all those different areas and people taking different roles. So the way any kind of trip that would be advertised to students or people looking for a leadership training, and I think we see this encompassing a lot of different purposes for a lot of different people.
So there would be, then, for example, if you had middle school kids and high school kids, you would have a procedure by which you would, whatever the sending district or the sending schools would do, is that this would be designed to make sure that these kids would get, quote, credit across discipline areas.
Yes.
Okay. All right, good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's just,
One of
I'm
the things I was
throwing
thinking,
those things out to think about.
if we're paying money for, per student in a district, $12,000 or wherever, that part of that money would be going towards this
right.
venture,
And it would count as their local
right.
educational development.
Right.
Okay, cool. Okay, other people, comments, questions. Dr. Sutton, you have anything to, throw in there, or other team members from other groups?
Well, I had a question about the MCCs. It sounded to me like they're very replicable.
Absolutely.
Besides being on the ship, is it something that can be replicated and used in the center on land?
Yeah, the whole point there is that these MCCs would be left in the countries, in those villages.
Okay, that's what I
So
meant.
that allows, with the micro communication center like that, and the ability to generate the electricity and store the electricity, then that village or that small town has the capability of contacting the rest of the world and being on the World Wide Web. So part of the mission of this ship is to build that interconnectivity.
Mm-hmm.
And the solar panels would be, it's almost like, Dr. Gould, we saw last year at the Bridges Conference.
Yep.
Them building the solar panels to put on a little hut, and then the students had a place to go where they could, as you say, interact with the world. So this would be the same idea, that you could start it on the ship, get it put together, and leaving it there is a wonderful idea.
Okay, good. So other teams, reactions, give feedback to team one on what you were thinking.
All right, I have a question for you guys. The cultural items that you learn from the people that you're visiting in Togo, is that information going to be brought back then to stateside and shared with school children in the United States?
Excellent question, Daniel.
That is the plan. I mean, it's kind of culture trading information, and exactly doing that, bringing it back.
And another important aspect of this cross-fertilization is there may be situations in their country that they've found a solution for that are applicable in other countries, are applicable in our country.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the exchange. So you gotta go and you meet these people and you build up trust. And once you have the trust, then the real exchange can begin.
And
Right.
would that exchange also mean bringing teams from Togo back into the state to sort of replicate what you're doing in Togo?
Repeat that, sir.
What I was wondering is, as you were talking about that, would eventually you would have reciprocal teams coming from Africa into communities in the United States to replicate it, in a reverse way?
Well, certainly. I mean, I live in the countryside, and there's pockets of rural poverty in Appalachia. It
Right.
could be done here. It could be teams or ships could come from other parts of the world.
Okay.
And the exchange could be. I mean, the ultimate goal is the exchange, and the traveling is complete
Mm-hmm.
worldwide.
Good.
One
Okay.
trip at a time.
Okay. Other comments? Do not be bashful.
Does anyone want to sign up?
Well, let me ask this question. Because as you get to your final project, will you create some sample curriculum?
Oh, all right. Interesting.
So for example, obviously, this is kind of a unique idea. It's pretty cool. But if you were going to go to, let's say, Gates Foundation for funding, one of the things you're going to have to do is say, okay, here's some sample types of intergenerational learning activities that would take place in Togo. So obviously you don't have to answer that right this minute, but I'd like you to think about what would be, for us to see some exciting new learning environments that would really make this cool.
Well, I mean, that's part of the process is learning that and bringing it back. But I mean, I think we can get more information. Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
I actually have a question in terms of the cost. You mentioned that, this is Catherine, you mentioned that the volunteer will pay their own way. So, I mean, how much is going to cost? As a parent, if my daughter, at a high school want to go on this trip, how much is going to cost me?
At this point, we'll just throw an estimate out there. So I think Ryan said $1,200.
Well, 1,200. I mean, how much? 12,000. What you would pay for a year tuition for a student in a school is what I was thinking. Sorry, Bill.
Well, I actually don't know. I use that because one of the African Mercy ships has the volunteers pay their own way. I know when I went to Africa a couple of times, it cost me about $1,500 to get there and about $500 to stay there. So it wasn't that expensive, but my school paid the $1,500 for the air and land travel, and then I saved my pennies over the years for the rest of it.
Okay, but that's something, just think about, again, if you're presenting to funders. All right, so one of the things we might do is, look at getting corporate sponsorship, because you're telling me that you're going to have these cross-generational learning environments or people working here. So my sense would be is that you're probably going to ask some business people to be part of this process. So that could possibly be a funding source.
Well, I think, scholarships are always a possibility. I think, thinking in terms of, I don't know. I don't know if you could get parents to say, okay, for middle school kids to go even, but definitely high school kids and certainly college. I mean, I'm coming from the college perspective, so I have to say, I didn't even think about younger kids. I was thinking only of college kids.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good because, they do exchange programs. I know right now, China particularly sends young kids to American schools and lives with families, exchange programs, et cetera. So this would bring, have your team think about this as as an exchange program, and then look at how exchange programs are working now as a possibility of funding sources. You don't have to totally look at, the funding mechanism of this, but it's something, to put in there. What I'm more concerned about is, all right, so what does, the learning environment on the ship look like? And then what are these MCCs? Can you make a replicate of what one might look like within a different community? So that's something to think about.
Good point.
Create.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just like a diagram
Yeah.
of how the setup is going to work with the solar panel and everything else. And the lessons that Dr. Gould was talking about would be important if you go to funders. They're going to want to know what is the curricula that you're using, and whether it be math lessons, storytelling, especially intergenerational storytelling from the Togo side of it, and then bringing it back, the intergenerational side of it, storytelling in the United States. That would be a good comparative study.
Okay, so I'm watching time, and I don't want to, go over the time. So is that enough information for Team 1 to keep processing and keep building out, particularly as you work? And then Dr. Sutton obviously will work with you guys as you explore that deeper. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So I am going to stop the recording.